Hello, everyone. Greetings. Well met, fellow IT adventurers. I am Director of Community here at Ninja One, Jonathan Crow, and I am so happy to see you all here. And I'm so happy that we're gathering on this, may I say, excellent Friday to play a little tabletop and get super nerdy with things. It's so cool to see everybody here in the chat saying where they're calling in from. We got places like Ohio, Alaska, and all the lands in between. So thank you so much for joining. This is a thing that we've tried before in the past, and some of you on here may have been a part of that before. As you'll see, the whole point is really to get people in the mood for tabletopping. But let me tell you a little bit how it's going to work. So first of all, we are recording this, and we'll be sharing the recording with everybody if you want to share some of the fun with anyone on your team who wasn't able to join the call, or if you have to dip and you have to miss stuff. Second, we are going to have our backup product manager, Dan Myers, be our DM here. I'm going to pull him on screen in just a second. And then we've got 4 players who we're going to introduce you to, who are awesome. They were all sharing their D&D geek cred backstage. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we want you, the audience, to be part of this too. And so get active in the chat. Let the players know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. And I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun here. So let me bring on our DM himself, Dan Myers.
Hey.
Dan, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And
I
so
got my
Dan,
mead. Got my mead here. It's not mead.
you got your mead, you have your shirt, you've got your setting there, you've got some guards in the background or something. I mean, this is your typical work from home situation, right?
Absolutely.
Well, awesome to have you. Okay, before we introduce our guests, I also want to bring up the prize situation because I'm super excited about this. Actually, you know what? Let's get to the guests first, and then we'll remind everybody what we're here playing for. We're going to give away some cool prizes. But let's first bring up our guest, and we're going to start with our good friend, Tom Lawrence.
All right. How are we doing today?
We're doing well, Tom. There we go. Okay, so Tom, you probably don't need an introduction for a lot of folks here. You've been on many Ninja events.
Yep.
Thank you for taking the time to do those. And you've actually played this before, so we'll see if you fare better. I can't remember how your rolling was last time.
We got really. I remember we had just a couple of luckies where we just kept rolling 20s and life got too easy. Actually, we were unchallenged a little bit, so we didn't. I remember that being part of it because things went too smooth.
Wow. Well, something tells me with Dan as a DM here that that's not going to be the case again.
Yeah.
So Tom, for those of you who aren't familiar with you from your YouTube channel and everything, we want to give a little bit of background about you, Tom the human, and then we can talk about your character too.
Absolutely. So Tom here from Lawrence Systems is how you hear me intro many videos. I create a lot of content on YouTube related to frequently crossing over into the MSP content space, but it's things I do. I'm just a nerd like all of you. I just press record and talk to a camera a lot and talk about all the nerd stuff that I do. When I'm, if my actual job, I don't know if YouTube's a job or not, so I don't like being called a YouTuber, but my other job is Conjurer of Media over at CNWR. And actually, I thought about changing my LinkedIn. You asked me what we should put as a title. I said that. I'm like, I'm about to update my LinkedIn to say the same thing because I thought it was great.
Media. It's pretty great. I think it's accurate too. And of course, I mean, as you cover in a lot of your videos, you've seen things that you can't unsee. You have definitely crawled through maybe not literal dungeons, but close to it.
Yeah. Yep.
As far as your IT work. Well, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much. We're going to introduce another one of your party members here. So let's see. I think we're going to go over to Adam Walter. Or as he's known here, Adam the Graybeard. So Adam, you are founder of Humanize IT. One of the reasons why you're here, first of all, is you're awesome. But you and I saw each other at a conference, at an event, and I was wearing a Backups and Bandwidth shirt, and you're like, oh man.
I found
need
my
to
people.
So, Adam, why don't you say a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, a little bit about your background, and then we can talk about Adam the Graybeard too.
Yeah. So my name's Adam Walter. I also am a old hat nerd and have a YouTube channel. And we build the best QBR software for presenting to your clients on the planet. No one does it better. So we can have you up and running in an hour. But in the meantime, I play a ridiculous amount of D&D. And I'm the old, my character over here, as we'll announce it, is I'm the old hat IT, right? I remember patching NT4 to get it USB working. I remember crawling through ceilings and what I can only call dungeons to run Cat 5 in places that people have not seen in 60 years.
Amazing. And why don't we I think you need to show off your shirt. So why don't we do that real quick? I'm going to bring you up on screen.
I do DMing for my kids and for my family. So it's because I'm the DM, I've got a number of shirts and this is the one I chose.
I love it. I love it. Well, Adam, welcome. Welcome to the party. Okay, so let's bring on the next member. Now we have Lisa Hauser, and let's see. Lisa, I really appreciated your character creation. But Lisa, thank you so much for joining in. And thank Amanda, your boss, for giving you the time to do it. Although you corrected me and said, you know what, today's actually a holiday for you. So thank you so much for taking the time away from work to jump on this. We got to make sure it's fun for you.
I'm based off everything I've seen already in the last 15 minutes. It's going to be fun.
So Lisa, how about a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we can get into your character too.
So I have worked with B4 Networks for the last 8 years. Currently, I am the proactive department team lead, where we, find the permanent fixes, or we look for problems that are going to happen, but they're not quite problems yet. That's my normal day to day. It's kind of hard to explain because it's kind of specific to clients and stuff that's happening.
I think you did a great job describing it. I mean, it sounds like you're rolling well in perception and getting some in your initiative roles. You're taking high initiative there.
Very likely, and I thought it would tie in pretty well with my backstory to have some bots doing all of the monitoring to tell me when there's a problem.
I love it. I love it. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. And now we're going to introduce your last party member, none other than Dean Trampolis. And Dean,
how's it going?
It is going well. I'm going to go ahead and maximize your screen really quickly right off the bat, because look at this shirt, everybody. And look at those claws. You might have to give a little context with the claws. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So my day job, I'm VP of operations at Helped, 100% US based outsourced help desk and live answer, but that's boring. And by night, I am the process lobster, Dr. Zoidberg. I have probably yelled at you on Reddit at some point.
You definitely yelled at me, I think, a couple of times, but in a good way, always encouraging. Tough love, I think. But yeah, Dean, awesome to have you here. And after we did this the first time, you and I also saw each other at a conference, and you stepped up and said, we should do this again. So there you go. This is your fault that you are here, and that so anything bad that happens, just remember you asked for it. All right. So with that, I think I am going to. Oh wait, one more slide. Aha, yes. Importantly.
Whoa.
I know, right? I'm so freaking jealous of this. So, okay, everybody, we're going to give away as a prize here. It's a random drawing. We're paying attention to everybody who's here in the chat. We're going to be giving away a Dungeons & Dragons 50th edition Lego set. I kind of have to remind myself that not everybody follows around like Lego and has known about this project for like months or even a year like I have. This came from their ideas section. It's super cool. I think it's going on sale on Monday. Anyway, they're celebrating 50 years of Dungeons & Dragons with this sweet Lego set. And it's going to be it just looks like such an awesome build. We're also going to give away a handful of backups and bandwidth shirts. And so keep an eye out at the end, stick around, and we'll explain how you guys can win those. And then also one last note before we get into the game here. We've got some additional resources. We always want to make sure that we're giving away some practical takeaways. And so we have one item that we're going to give away that you'll see. I don't want to spoil it, but it's going to be highlighted here that we'll make sure everybody gets. And then also the whole idea with this being, hey, like, let's inspire people, get them excited about doing tabletops, because it's such a cool and really great thing to be doing with your team in one way or the other. How much you want to lean into like going hardcore nerd fantasy with it is up to you. But you should do it in one way or the other. And so we've got some resources that we'll point you to that have some scenarios and make tabletopping a little easier. So cool. With all that said, I'm going to duck out before any of you guys try to make me eat a spicy chip. And I will let you take it away.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Backups and Bandwidths. My name is Dan Myers, and when I'm not role-playing in RPGs, I'm the product manager for Ninja Backup here at Ninja One. But today I'm going to be the dungeon manager, taking us through our adventure. So let's dive in. Today, we begin our adventure in the world of Shuriken. Now, this land is full of fantastic and mystical locations to adventure in. The Dragonlands to the north and the Elven Forest Kingdom of Moonwood to the southwest, to name a few. But our adventurers today won't be doing anything like that. Our heroes joining us instead have, for some unknown reason, chosen to embark on a role-playing adventure in a world all too familiar to them, working in IT. Now, we've met our characters, and they look to conquer the adventures of working with backups and restores of critical company data. Our players at one time met in a tavern long ago, but today they're filling in as temporary IT workers for a company who said that they mysteriously lost their last IT group. Something about a wizard, a lot of spells, they wouldn't tell him anymore. Now, characters, adventurers. You arrive at a fairly nondescript, standard-looking office building and are met in the entry by a large green-skinned orc with a short mohawk. He's wearing a suit and a tie, and he's got a warhammer slung over his back. On his shirt, there's a name tag sticker with Steve written on it. "Yeah, you're late. Come on in. The IT office is this way." He leads you down the hall and into a room. "Just don't break anything. Get to work."
Can I stop for some coffee first?
The door. You want to stop for coffee? Absolutely. Why don't you make our first roll and see if you could find the break room and find some coffee?
Oh, dang it.
Try again. I don't think the roll came through. So, perfect. 7. So it takes you a little while. You do find the break room. Coffee is cold, and it's not fantastic. So you take that back. Yeah, you take that back, and you head into your office lair that you were brought into here with your companions. Now, the room inside, it's spacious. In the middle is a pod of desks with beautiful wooden carved dividers separating each desk from one another, and each desk has a computer at it. There's flickering torches lining the walls here to provide light, and around the room, hand-carved plaques with phrases like "Unleash your inner hero" and "Fear is for mortals." And then there's also a door labeled "Server Room" at the far end. So, as you settle into your workday, what would you like to do first?
I don't know about the others, but I kind of want to take a peek at that server room first.
Yeah, okay. So you open that server room door. Big, creaking, heavy door. In it,
was there no keyed entry on the door?
Yeah, it wasn't locked.
Yeah, no keyed entry, I guess. Wow, yeah, there we go. So
that's something that's a little concerning.
No man
we're going to tell Steve about this. Absolutely. A pretty standard server rack. Lots of blinking lights, some cobwebs in the corner, torches lining the walls. I'm sure that's safe. And just a fairly standard server room. Anyone else want to do anything first?
How's the wiring look? Is it a rat's nest? I need to know.
Why don't you give me an investigation roll here and see how things look. Oh boy,
While he's
what's it
looking
gonna
at
be?
wiring, I'm going to sit down on my computer and
Yeah,
check my morning mail and look at my dashboards.
yeah, absolutely. So your email's looking good here. There are some tickets that maybe we could look at here in a moment. Tom, how was that roll in the server
Rule
room?
18. So they have sounds like a reasonably clean server room, because the wiring and then the servers, I want to know just how old of equipment and how disastrous or disorganized it is. It sets the tone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does look nice. It looks like there's a business card of the previous IT vendor who's gone missing. It says Duke Greylock IT. So looks like Duke knows his stuff, and that's pretty nice to see, right? Coming into a new environment. All right. And who was looking at their computer here? Did you want to take a look at some
The
tickets?
graybeard is doing very little in checking his computer.
Oh, today's our first day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah, how am I
concerning
logging
that you
in?
were able to get into your computer that quickly.
Hey, you've
Were
been
we
given
given
your
passwords or
credentials.
anything?
Oh,
I'm
no,
that
no.
good.
We got that all taken care of.
I'm that good.
All right. Adam, did you
No
want to
one
look
tell
at
Matt
any
Lee.
tickets, or did you
Do-
want to
do
keep
a what?
looking around? Did you want to look at any tickets while you're here on your
Yeah, I want to see
computer?
what tickets have been open so far today.
All right, roll me a D8.
Oh, D8. All right. Remove that one. Yeah. Karma is not with me today.
That's all right. Didn't quite. Oh, here it comes. Ooh, a 2. The subject is goblins moved PCs and now not working. So something to probably.
We've all been there.
But as you're reading that ticket, Lisa, your phone rings. It's a picture of Steve the Orc. Shows up as the person calling. You gonna answer it?
Yeah.
Hey, what are you guys doing in there? The server's down. It's not working anymore. Fix it. And he hangs up.
Way to go, Tom.
Yeah, all right. Tom's been checking out the wiring here, right?
Yeah.
So,
Tom's
Hey,
cleaning
Tom.
up wiring to structured cabling standards. That's why it's all going down.
I wanted to make it nice. Sorry.
Hey Tom, did you move a cable? Apparently the servers are down.
There should be redundant cables, right?
what are you guys gonna do?
Since the server's down and I am the process person, can I roll to see if there's some sort of documentation handbook?
Sure, absolutely. So why don't you give me a roll? And I believe your character has a +5 for documentation. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's give a roll to see a D20 to see how you do finding that documentation.
Think we lucked out here.
Oh, really? 14 +5. That is a 19. So, yeah, you do locate some nice documentation. Yep. And you can start taking a look at it here. You find the documentation. We're going to have to take a look at it and see if we can learn a lot from it here. What else are you doing while Dean the Process Lobster is looking through documentation?
I mean, the simple things as well is probably useful. Servers are still on, right? Like they still have lights on.
Look for blinky lights.
Yeah. Why don't you make an investigation roll here? Give me a D20.
Oh boy, I don't think this roll's pretty good.
Right. You know, there are lights in there, that's for sure, but you don't really know what it looked like originally, so you can't tell if there's any less lights or more lights here necessarily.
I'm going to attempt to avoid working on the ticket with the goblins because these people sound. I just don't.
Yeah.
Want to deal with, I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to go over
Right.
and say, "What's going on in the server room?"
Right.
And I've got
Okay.
my swill of coffee in my hand, and I'm just going to peek around the corner.
Right. So the group of you taking a few moments here, you've definitely identified that there is a server that is no longer running. Since there was some decent documentation role there by Dean the Process Lobster, they at least are labeled. And so you do find that there is some sort of application server that was running the company's Magic Spell Management Service, the MSM. It's not running anymore.
All right. So just the app server so far that we know of is down. That's not the worst scenario to be in. All right. I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
But
Okay.
why did it go down? Can we check event logs and see why it went down?
Yeah, so if you want to try and troubleshoot this, you can give me a D20 here, see if we can figure out what's going on.
I can't log in, so somebody else is going to have to do it.
That's a natural one, sounds like.
By royal decree, I can't log into servers.
We got the audience suggesting that we roll for event logs.
Okay. So, whoa, 17, what a roll. The server's not on. You can't check those logs, and it doesn't look like there were anything pulled into the RMM lately here.
But we have an RMM.
Yeah, hey, you have an RMM, so that's good. All right, the machine isn't turning on. What are you guys going to do here?
Do I have... I know that today's kind of our first day, but do I, by chance, have an automation or something like that I can take a look at to see if we can get any more information here?
Yeah, well, why don't you give me a D20? High DC here, because it's your first day. Let's see if any of your processes you've created and your automations you've created in the past might be able to give you a hand here. And here it comes. Yeah, it's too new of an environment here. You guys have spent some time, and this server is not booting. So
the whole server isn't booting, or just
do we have anything on the screen? Is like powered or not powered, not booting?
Yeah, the app server just is not running here anymore. It will not boot, and it looks like you guys are going to have to start taking a look at some of the backups because this is looking pretty bad here.
Are we sure someone didn't just forget to renew our VMware subscription?
I checked before we started. Fully licensed, bills paid.
All right.
They're looking good here.
What's our OS level here?
That's a great question. It's Orange 12 is the operating system. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So does anyone want to take a look and see if we can learn a little bit about the backups here? Maybe
the
backup
the documentation does show that there is some sort of policy or plan.
Yeah, it does. Give me Dean, give me a D20 here. Let's see what the documentation has on the backups, or how familiar you are with this backup app.
I'm optimistic with this roll.
All right. That's a 15. All right, cool. Yeah, you are familiar with this, which is fantastic. You're familiar with the backup solution. You've used it in the past. And with that exceptional role, you were able to recognize that they even have local and cloud backups. So that is nice.
We need something to restore to, though. So, Tom, can you see if there's a BIOS screen? Anything that is popping up? At what level of failure are we at? Can we actually bring a backup into this server, or do we need to rebuild a server?
Yeah, so it's a great question. As a DM, I'm not going to make you roll on something you can't affect. You absolutely can restore either to this machine or another machine if you needed to. So you've got the tools, hopefully, to be successful here.
Yeah, my fear here, guys, team, is that we've got a bad piece of hardware, and we're going to restore even if we can find a known good backup, to a poor piece of hardware. So how do we find out if we've got good hardware here, or do we need to swap out first?
Well, I'm worried. I'm assuming the hardware is fine. I'm worried somebody hasn't been following that process I read, and we don't actually know if we have any good backups at all.
Does it seem fair then for somebody to go check and see what the last backup was, if it does seem to be good, while somebody else goes and checks to make sure, can we get into baseboard management to see, is there any hardware
Yeah.
issues?
I can check for known good backups. That doesn't require
Okay.
admin access.
All right, Adam the Graybeard. Why don't you give me a D6 here to check the backups
Okay.
and to see when the
Can
most
I
recent
get a help
backup
action
was.
from Dean since he read the documentation?
You can get a +1 from the help of Dean here. So D6 to see when the most recent day's worth of backups exists.
Nice. Man,
Actually-
I hope we get a good roll. I don't want
Actually,
Steve
you don't
to
want
remember
to you don't want a +1. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. You get a -1 because what that means is 4 minus 1 means the last good backup is 3 days ago.
I've seen worse.
I've seen worse too. So, all right.
And you said before this was just an app server, not the database or file server.
Hey, well, you're not quite sure how important it is, but actually, you would know reading through about the Magic Spells management software. It's pretty important. This is not good to have lost this many days worth of data of spells. Are you kidding? Woo, that's rough.
Steve's gonna be
So,
so mad.
you've got documentation. You know the recent backups are. Are we thinking it's time to try and restore here?
I feel better restoring to another server because we don't still know what caused the failure of that one.
Yep. Okay.
I'm in the same boat. I feel better about that. If we find out like the cause is something like it's the OS partition or something like that, maybe we can only restore like that particular part, and then we can leave the rest of the data from the last 3 days intact.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Is there a
that's pretty
hypervisor or
decent
anything
idea.
on this that we know of?
It is compatible. It's all compatible together here. So while yes, it's not necessarily relevant for us today. So are we ready to perform our restore?
If we can do it to another piece of hardware so we're not overwriting, then I think so.
Okay, that sounds great. Yolazag, why don't you give us the first roll on how the restore is going to go here?
All right, let's see how.
D20.
Oh, that's better than all the other rolls I've done so far.
Our lead tech over there.
Here it comes. Wow, 18. Yeah, so you get started and you're doing a great job. You're restoring that OS volume here back. It's still a bit of a stressful situation. It's new to you. It's new technology. You're in your first day here. And you're able to restore that operating system's volume, although it's 3 days old. Hopefully that's not going to be too big a deal if we can get that data. I would like to see, so now you guys are what? You guys are going to try and migrate the data, see if you can get that access to that volume on the other machine?
Can we roll to see if it's a Monday and it's only Fridays? Friday was a good day.
Yeah, sure, Tom. Roll me a D6 to figure out what day of the week it is. If it's a 6, you're working on a Saturday.
Just seeing just how far back we got to go. Okay.
Oh, here comes 1. Right.
It's Friday.
So,
and we're living in here for the weekend for recovery.
Yeah, it is. Right. So, Adam, why don't you give us a D20 roll to see if you're able to get that data in a safe spot to where you can bring it over. See if you can recover data off that drive. It's going to be a very high VC.
Oop. I double clicked. Sorry.
That's okay.
I have advantage.
The worst one. And okay, so the 10 there. Yeah, it was not able to be migrated and restored. There is that thing, maybe, but not today. Not today. It's not going to happen. So, what are we thinking? Are we going to have to restore from our backup, even though it's 3 days old?
So I'm still not clear from the documentation I read. I really got the impression there was a DR policy because this production server is so important. There's got to be a way we can get people back up and working while we figure this out.
Oh, the documentation looked amazing.
Yeah.
Just wasn't done. Just wasn't followed.
That
wasn't
never
kept
happened.
up with. Where is Duke Greylock when you need him?
Can I try to call Duke Greylock?
You may. Why don't you roll me a d20 for Duke Greylock?
Mostly, I just want to yell at him.
Right.
Get his voicemail.
It's ringing.
Got it.
But, it's just ringing.
Yep. Duke does not answer. It was a pretty good roll, but still not quite there.
I'll say, so we're in a situation
Tom,
where
your phone rings and it's Steve the Orc.
Hello?
What's going on? I need this backup now. Quit messing around. Click.
sounds about normal.
Yeah, right. You get the feeling you don't want to see this guy mad, but it's starting to look like he's pretty mad.
So we've got a known good backup at 3 days old, no HA, no failover,
It's rough.
and a known good server we can restore to.
Oh yeah, you've already got you got the operating system of Orange 12 migrated over here. You got to bring that data from the backup here. Looks like you're out of options. Anyone want to give me a roll for
the business impact of 3-day-old data on this particular server?
It's high.
Like, are they able to recreate the data from the last 3 days, or is it just a loss? Is this not data that can be?
Or is there
that can be
Is this like the spell transaction table, or is this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's from what you gathered from Steve, it's pretty important. You may not understand the full scope, but you know that needs to be brought back up, and
But
get the feeling.
can I recreate the data? So, like, if it's a transaction server, how am I going to? Can we manually recreate the data from the last 3 days? So we restore and then manually create the transaction logs from something. Right. Maybe it was in the process. Like, hey, there's a backup log of these that we can manually entry. One time one time in my career we restored an entire checkpoint cluster from screenshots from a PowerPoint.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was a big routing table too.
So when you were looking at trying to migrate the database over, you didn't see any additional volumes and drives that you could have utilized to help you with any type of incremental recovery.
Those torches you mentioned, are those combustible or magic?
Oh, make an investigation check. Quick, D20.
Alrighty. Because I was just thinking, depending, maybe we just knock one of those over on the floor and let the Argon system sort this out for us.
So you definitely do recognize that those are magical torches.
All right.
You've worked with these in the past.
Do they follow a code standard? Because I don't want to ruin the server again.
They are okay. Yeah, they won't ruin the server. You feel confident in that. So, are we going to finish restoring?
Let's do it.
I have one more question.
We have to.
Here.
We'll at least begin to restore it, and then we need to look for an iterative process or an iteration to bring us back up to the current.
Tom, what are you thinking here?
Well, I'm seeing, and I agree, play off what user Jack said in the comments here. They said, are there cameras that might have caught the lost transactions? Are there cameras, or is there a system still running that hasn't committed those transactions or has like a synchronized copy of the database we could push to it? Playing off of Adam pulling from a PowerPoint presentation to reassemble something.
Yeah. You're hopeful that you might be able to find some of that information. You don't see it right now.
Okay. We need to restore first. I think that's where the next step is.
Okay. So over the next, well, Tom, let's see how this is going to go. Go ahead and give me a D20 roll to see how the rest of the recovery effort goes.
As this is happening, I love the lack of trust we all have in this whole thing working.
Absolutely. Hey, 12, not too bad. I mean, listen, the rest of the day is pretty stressful. I mean, Steve is coming by every half hour now at this point, seeing what's going on. It takes you a long time. You are able to recover, but it takes the rest of the day here for you. Steve is not happy, and that is where we fade to black on our first adventure. Look, pretty intense. The damage was just done. You guys were able to do exceptionally well at this. Thankfully, Duke Greylock did provide some good documentation, and there did seem to be some good stuff. But first day on the job, new tech, new practices, never a great combination to need to be going into a disaster recovery event. But Lisa, can you make me one last D20 roll here? Actually, I need a D20 from everyone. Let's get that. Let's get the dice rolling on that table.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't helpful.
Here they come. Yes, the Ninja 20. We got a natural 20 here. Hey, some pretty good rolls, but Adam, you absolutely see in the corner a book. Now, Adam, what languages does your character speak?
Most of them. I've been around for a while.
Okay, it's in English. This is not a problem. So it is labeled the Tome of Backup Best Practices. Ooh. And we're going to take a bit of a break to read through this and discuss it here as a group. So, listen, that was a lot of fun. And the situations that our heroes just went through, look, it's pretty far-fetched, but it can and does happen to organizations all of the time when you haven't prepared for a disaster. So we want to take a few moments here to hit you with what the meat of this presentation and this event is about. Not just to get involved in tabletop gaming. I'm having a lot of fun, but I want to help spread the word here to make sure that you are safe and your backups are ready for when you will need them. It's not about if you're going to need them. One day you will need your backups, and are you ready? So Jonathan did mention all of our attendees today are getting a copy of this tome of best practices. But I want to talk about some of them and why they're important here. We're going to go over a couple of them, and I'm going to open it up to some of our adventurers here to talk about some of their experiences of maybe backup, challenges in the past, or what they're doing to make sure that they're protected. Look, for me, it starts with making sure that you have enabled basic alerting for your backups. That is absolute number one step you got to take today. If you don't have that, set it up. Beyond that, I would also be recommending that it's not just the absence of it's not just failed backups. In Ninja One, I like to say that backup is a team sport, and I recommend strongly to any of our sales and account management team to take the phrase set and forget out of their vocabulary. It's a team effort. You need to look for the lack of a failure or a success. You need to be checking your backups on a daily basis. I want to open it up. Who would like to begin with maybe one of these that really steps out to you here on the page that we can talk about?
I could tell you about a time we lost a client because we weren't checking backups.
Yeah, please.
So many moons ago, I used to be an MSP. This was in the early 2010s. We were using one of the Children of Zenith when the original Zenith kind of fell apart. And we thought we were the bee's knees. We had a BDR appliance on site. We were backing up the host and all the VMs. We were doing all the things you're supposed to do. They had a critical situation, and we confidently said, not a problem. We can restore from backup. Turns out we couldn't because we weren't checking them. We just set it and forget it and assumed that it was just working fine, and it was not. And that client was not okay with lost wages and lost production, and we lost that client, and we never made that mistake again.
Yeah, absolutely. I
I
mean,
have an encrypted story.
yeah, please go for it.
They was not our client, but was fired their previous IT person because they had a fire at their building, and the server was melted. It is, but not completely melted, but not enough that they wanted to plug it in. It smelled pretty bad. But the problem was the person had done the encrypted at rest and then saved the wonderfully long high entropy password to the desktop of the server they were backing up. So when the server wouldn't come out anymore, and they were trying to use a new computer, they said we have no way to recover it. We actually were able to pull the drives out, even though the servers melted. We were able to mount the drives and get to that desktop file and restore it for them. That was how they became our client. But it was just interesting because once again, they had the password. They just didn't think about, oh yeah, I'm saved the password to the desktop of the server, and kind of wrapped that all up and had no way to restore it from bare metal because they had never really thought about that process. Just, it was a really simple oversight. The techs actually seemed relatively competent, but that oversight was a killer for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, you're doing proactive management at your organization. So what is your organization doing to make sure they don't have situations like Dean and Tom are talking about here?
So we have a daily check every single day. A member of staff. It's a different person each day. Right now, it's rotating between two people. I'm one of the people, one of the persons, and there's one of my coworkers is the other days. And we check every single day, every single server, every single device that is getting backed up. Was it successful, and when was it successful last? And then if it is not successful for whatever reason, when when it's reported that, "Hey, it wasn't successful," when was the last good one? Just in case it was like, "Yeah, it started failing Saturday and it's Monday." Then, okay, we've got an idea of the urgency and, okay, what may have happened, and then we can remember, "Oh, yeah, there was a giant storm that happened on Saturday. Okay, something's probably offline." But, uh a lot of that checking stuff, and then also having in client meetings, we do TBRs with clients periodically. In them, we say, "This is the stuff we're backing up. Do we still agree? Is there
Oh,
anything else?"
love it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We would have gotten along well if when I was back in MSP world and you were around. I mean, we did many things similar to that. Look, a little peek behind the backups and bandwidths curtain here. They weren't supposed to be so successful in that adventure. But some of the things that could have happened, and I'll say this because this is what we still see. And in my position as running a backup product, like we see people making less than the best decisions that could be for them and their companies. Are they using file folder when they should be using image? Are they doing cloud only when they should be making sure they have a copy both local and cloud? Do they have alerting and auditing? I get people call me up and say, "Dan, help. I have 3 terabytes cloud only and I need to recover now." And I go, "I can't. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do here. This is why we offer a hybrid platform. But let's see what I can do today to move heaven and earth to help." But we do see people, even in just the basic setup, forget the basics or not consider some of the basics here. And then when they come to us, they don't have a plan, right? So, as Dean pointed out, the documentation has a plan. It has all this, but it wasn't followed. It wasn't checked. And that is why I consider backup a team sport between your vendor and yourselves. I don't care if you're using Ninja's backup or not. You have to make sure that you're prepared in the event of an emergency.
I like to point out the disaster recovery checklist over there.
Yes.
Is one I see most ignored, because they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm just going to restore." Like, in the beginning of this thing, we're trying to figure out, okay, what scenario am I working with here? What kind of restore options do I have? And so doing like a tabletop exercise where you say, okay, Blizzard hit the town. These 5 clients are down. What are our steps?
Yep.
And, we talked about this in our podcast this week, was be curious about these scenarios so you can discover, because if you run really good DR tabletops, you'll find out that in a Blizzard situation or a massive blackout, your employees are worried about their families, not about your clients. Okay, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about if a tornado hits? I'm in the Midwest. That's a finger of God hits us. What do you do? How do you prioritize these 5 clients? And then, you can say like, oh, well, Tom's not available. We don't know why he's not answering his phone. And so test your DR process for scenarios.
It also it helps you with your clients too, right? Because whether your process is simple or sophisticated, followed well, followed poorly, if it exists and you are on message with your clients, that was a lot of the questions we were asking during the scenario. It was basically like, how upset is Steve and the company going to be? Because if we haven't told somebody that, like, listen, your system will take 24 hours to restore no matter what, so send everybody home. Well, setting that expectation up front, that might not only buy us a day, but it might also mean the client's not as angry at us the entire time. So we're not worried about the wrath of Steve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Having a plan.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
That we didn't do that in talking with Steve in this, and that, like, if I was to change one thing without like changing like any of the roles, like it would be like, okay, we were communicating more with Steve. This is where we're at. This is what's happening. Because that could have possibly alleviated some of the anger, but I mean, he might be part barbarian, so that may not be.
Tell them like, hey, if it's going to be a half an hour, or they expect it to be half an hour, but you say, hey, it's going to be 8 hours before I can get this up, then the directors and the managers of that company can then set expectations with the employees. They are angry about the lost time and the fact that they can't make a plan. Help them, no matter what the bad news is. Don't be afraid of giving them bad news. Look, we don't have any good backups. We're working really hard right now. I think we can have you up by 2:00.
Yep. It's a great opportunity. You guys have touched on a lot of good things that I want to hit on, like having someone be the communicator and someone be the tech that's actually trying to fit. I mean, like, heck, in a real situation, someone's just starting the restore after like 30 minutes. Meanwhile, one person is trying to recover the data. Meanwhile, one person is talking to the customer. When it comes to a disaster recovery checklist, these are amazing things to happen. First of all, people need to be comfortable restoring. Stressful. These are stressful situations, even when you have everything documented. I get people calling and saying, help, I need to restore, which is what we're here for. We want to be able to hold your hand through it, but they've never even tried to restore. They have no idea even where the tool lives for our image recovery tool. I can't stress enough. Practicing, use the tool first. Make sure people are confident and comfortable, at least utilizing the basics of it.
That's why I tell people, like, you're, as an IT person, every one of us knows the feeling of what we call walking on water. I just worked a miracle and no one understands what I just did. So when you set expectations, hey, the expectations, we're going to be up in like 8 hours. And even then it's going to be a little shaky. And you call them 2 hours later and say, okay, I was able to get us up in 2 hours. One time I was on a phone call. I had like 60 engineers on this call. I was working in a large corporation and I'm coordinating all these activities. And I said, okay, it's going to take us about, got from the engineers, it's going to take us about 90 minutes to get this system back up. And this director, like in the background, goes, you've got 15. And then the CEO kicked him off the call, took him off to the side and said, no. And so they all worked with the 90 minutes we had, and they were able to set expectations with everyone. This was a very large corporation. And so there's a lot of moving parts, and as long as we were communicating, we were good.
Yeah. So there's a few things here, and then we're gonna, now that we've been armed with some knowledge, we're about to go try it again here, see if we can do any better here in a different scenario. But I would also point out that there's a real importance for us as IT practitioners and backup administrators to make sure you understand the needs of your client. There's something called RPO and RTO, recovery point objective, recovery time objective. How much data can you lose and still be okay? And how long is it going to take to restore that data? In our critical scenario here, 3 days was not a great recovery point objective. It was unacceptable, but they didn't have backups to meet those needs. It's critical that not only do you understand the backup product that you are utilizing, but you understand the machines that you're protecting. Are they protected in an acceptable manner for recovery? Then you could start making your checklist, start making your plan. Heck, when I was in MSP, we charged like a yearly, we'll do a full playbook of what server to bring up and when and first, and then we'll go do a walkthrough with you, a DR walkthrough on a Thursday night with you. And that's another value add that you can do. But at minimum, knowing that you are making good decisions on choosing the right type of backup with the right RPO and RTO, and making sure that you have a plan and that you're not just setting and forgetting. In the world of knock and backup monitoring, it could be really easy to just get complacent, out of sight, out of mind. Nah, that backup fails, but it always finishes in the next hour. You got to treat them all seriously. So I want to leave some room at the end. We can talk about a few other scenarios, but let's try this again as an adventuring group here. And let's see if we could do any better. So, flash cut. We return to our exciting world, still not dealing with those cool dragonlands. We fast forwarded some time. It's winter, and your group has been run out of town in the last adventure because you weren't too great. Now, you're working again with Steve. Don't ask questions. I don't know why he's here, but he's here, and let's just get back and started. So, as you start your first week in the new IT position as a group, what are the first things you're going to do to make sure the past doesn't repeat itself?
I'm gonna find better coffee right off the bat.
Find better coffee. Done.
That
Man,
cold
I'm
coffee,
happy.
I was not thinking very clearly. I was too
Yeah.
distracted.
Better work environment now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What else?
So we asked for documentation last time, but we never really checked. I mean, they must have a ticketing system. We never really checked to see if there was some sort of history that the process was actually being followed. So
Right.
maybe we should just check and see, at least if people are claiming they're following the process, we should verify that.
And you find yourself in a little bit of a similar scenario. The previous IT company of G Stone Tech was here, but you do read through that documentation. It's okay. It's not great. What are you going to do about it now?
Sounds like we have to improve it, and it also sounds like at the exact same time, we also need to be checking out the rest of the environment, because if documentation is like that, ooh, is there stuff going on that is also like starting to fail or maybe should be replaced sooner rather than later?
So you're going to treat this as kind of like an onboarding of a new client for yourself.
Yep.
And what you would be doing it on some discovery. You guys are going to write and update some documentation here, right? You've got better coffee. Tom, what are you thinking you should do in this situation as well?
Kind of talking to management is important, because make sure they allocate the time, because they don't see as, well, the backups are working, got a green checkbox. Yeah, I would like the time to validate and restore, and it's going to take me so many hours of the day. Like, well, you could solve more printer problems during those hours instead of testing backups. It's everyone, if you ask them, says, yes, I'd like to test the restores, but do I have time to do it, or is time allocated to me to do it? That if management cares, that will give us that extra time we need to walk through these tabletop scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the course of that week, engaging with Steve, that's not a problem. I mean, he clearly knows now. If you would have told him this last time, he may not have been so receptive. And look, let's be clear, taking the curtain down again real quick. Like, that's a problem in our IT environments, is how do you convince, how do you show the value of taking that additional time and getting the client on board? You're not against them, but if you recognize that they are coming along with you on this journey and explaining it, you're gonna have a heck of a better time should we ever need to go talk to Steve in a crisis again. What else
I
are you
just
guys going
want
to
to
do here? Yeah, please.
any automations that we put in place, because that's very
Ooh.
much so my character already. Especially because we can definitely automate doing some testing a little bit quicker. But of course, we're going to want to do a full blown actual test where things are going to be down for a bit, just for us to actually do the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
What
not
are
a
the
everyday thing, though.
what are the top 2 or 3 you want to get done in the first couple of weeks?
In the first couple of weeks, I'm specifically thinking about backups.
Okay.
I want to make sure I get those alerts that something has gone wrong in any kind of failure or warning status. I want to make sure that um, let's go with, this is a bigger one, and depending on the environment, it can't be done in a week because you might have to get a little bit more familiarity. But actually, you could totally test restore something inside of on a weekly basis, even on a daily basis, once it's
But
hybrid or
even
in a virtual environment.
but even just in the meantime, if you didn't have an opportunity to set up full automation, you're definitely advocating for someone is going to test some restores here and make
Yep.
sure that, hey, we're not just getting the green check mark. We're spot checking. We're validating we can see those files and download one, and that we can see this. So you guys are you're testing restores, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe we are setting a baseline RPO and RTO, whether or not that agrees with documentation or policy. We're verifying how far the backups go and how quickly we can pull that data at this client, because they may have a slow network connection or something.
I'd also like to identify critical assets so we can prioritize testing and recovery of those, so we can set SLAs. Hey, that application server was critical, but we didn't know that it was critical until it went down. So establishing a known documentation of, here are our critical assets, so that we can make sure we're doing extra validation on those backups of the critical data itself.
Yep.
Maybe establishing some kind of HA principles or failovers.
I love it. I think that's exactly where Lisa, your phone beeps, but it's not Steve. It's a server down alert. So you guys set up some nice alerting here. Thank God it wasn't Steve again that had to come tell you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do now?
I mean,
Should we
keep
tell
saying
Steve?
it. Before we even go that far, if assuming we're in our office here, and I keep saying it because it's happened to me enough times, step one, silly question, is it on?
Yeah. No, it's not. You turn it on, everything's great. All right, fast forward 3 more weeks. You get another server down beep. Now what are you going to do? You've checked, the server is off, it won't turn on, okay? Now what?
I mean, we've already gone through and we've updated our documentation, so it sounds like we're starting the instant response.
That's right. And listen, as the background music begins to pull in very slowly, listen, one of the key factors I talked about being a good DM in D&D is you don't make the players roll for items they can't affect anymore. And because our adventurers found better coffee, and they improved documentation, and they talked to management and set up reasonable RTO and RPO policies based on what the company needs. They set their server alerts. They tested restores. Look, it was still a busy day in the office, but everyone was prepared. Everyone pulled together as a team, and you were capable of restoring in a very timely manner. And you beat the RTO that you had set out to do. You were able to restore quicker than was even business required, right? And of course, we smash cut to Steve, thanking you for saving the day. He's baked really intricate pastries filled with different fruits and chocolates for you as thanks. I think Steve's all right after all, as long as you don't get on that bad side. And we smash cut again to the city throwing you a celebration in your honor as incredible IT adventurers. Now, Tom's phone rings, but this time it's from an unknown number asking for your help with some dragons and asking you to meet him in the tavern. You're going to enjoy that adventure, but it can wait until the morning. And that is our adventure into the world of backups and bandwidths. So just want to close with two final items here, one of which being the prize raffle. So hang tight for that Lego. I'll get you out of here in a few minutes. Listen, I've mentioned a couple times because I'm just so darn selfish. Ninja One has their own backup product. And this is what our best practice, Home with Best Practices guide was built around. Our product is built internally and directly into the RMM. We handle image and file folder. We hope you'll take a look if you haven't in the past. But in the end, I don't care whether you use our product or some other's product. I want you to be prepared. I want you to be ready so that when disaster strikes, hopefully one or two of these bullet points has really caught your attention and go, I should do that. I'm not doing that. Hopefully things that our adventurers have said today will set you up for success. I want to thank all of our heroes for taking time out of their day to roleplay their day job. And thank you all for joining in the audience. Jonathan, back over to you for our raffle and some maybe hang out and chat here.
Oh man, well done, heroes. Incredible job. And Dan, you're the man as always. That was great DMing.
It's fun.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and audience too. The chat was active and hilarious, and I appreciate all of you. Hopefully this was a fun Friday and also informative. Yeah, so let's get to it. The prizes. I'm so jealous of you. Carly Grass, congratulations. You win the 50th anniversary Dungeons & Dragons Lego set. We will be following up with you to make sure that you get that. Man, if I can come over and like play with it sometime, that would be awesome. But you don't have to guess that, of course. Okay, and then, but that's not all. We also want to give out 5 backups and bandwidth shirts. These guys, and we're gonna give those to. Let's see, we got Chili OG, congrats. Anthony Franta, Mike Sear, Billy Bloomfield, and Joshua Lampman. Again, we're going to be congrats to all of you. Thank you for joining us on our adventure. That's the loot that you all get to take away from the dungeon. We'll be following up with you to make sure that you get that. So thanks all for coming in and joining us, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. I just like zooming in on Dean, apparently. Sporting that hat.
Figure what's going on here,
But heroes, thank you so much. I know we went over. Really appreciate your time. You're all great. We're going to include links. We'll send an email that has the link to the recording for this, and we'll also make sure we include links how to follow up with all these folks and just read more. And we'll also include the link to the Tome of Best Practices. And last thing, let's see if this works. I'm going to try a little QR code. Oh, it's so small up there in the top. Hopefully it works. You should join our Discord. We have a Discord server. Anne is active in it very often. Steve, hasn't shown up there yet. It's still a secret from Don't Tell Him. But we're all hanging out there. A lot of the talk is around Ninja and how to do cool things there. But it doesn't stop there. It's a lot of people sharing some things about their days that go beyond Ninja. So great community. It's been awesome to take part in it. Anyway, hope you'll take a peek. And everyone, thank you so much. Happy Friday. Until the next adventure. We'll see you soon. Bye.